my friend, my brother. Iggy is everything that all of us strive to be, a congruent human being. So this moving on of his is so exciting, and I'm so behind it in a part of it. It, for me personally, is a tremendous loss. For Beit Shuvah as an organization, it's a tremendous loss. So we're doing this study, and we picked this piece of Talmud just because it's kind of us. So Rabbi Yochanan was the leader of the Sanhedrin, and he was just a beautiful, beautiful man. Brilliant and beautiful, all at the same time. Why don't you explain Reish Lakish?
First, thank you. And one has to ask permission. When one teaches, goes to a different school, different town, right? Because there's schools of thoughts, right? When people go to different towns, you can't just start teaching. You're not allowed to, in our tradition, to just start teaching. As brilliant as you are, you have to ask the permission of your rabbis and the rabbi of the space, what's known the Mara de Atra, the rabbi of the land, for permission to teach. And so I'm seeking permission from my rabbi and from my other rabbi, Harriet. Like the theme yesterday, which is sort of interesting, my son was like, why is that? Like, why do people start not liking you and then they end up liking you? I can't answer that exactly, but beyond all the different accolades and beyond all the different things we've done here, my friendship with you, Harriet, is something that sort of has become the crown jewel of my experience here. Our ability to finally see each other and love each other is really, it's very meaningful to me. And you too.
I played second for a while.
So thank you, but I'll talk about Reish Lakish in that sense about you, and that one of the reasons we chose this text and who Reish Lakish was and what you are. And this week has been a pretty big week for the house, for us, the conversation we all had on Thursday, what it means to be in recovery, how to self-identify within that scope, within that bell curve of recovery. There are a few people in this world who are really able to change. Change is, right, perhaps the most difficult thing. Transition, change. And to hold on to the change, right? The ability to actually stay true to that moment of change, to stay true to the moment of aha moment, revelation, God speaking, whatever you want to call it, is so difficult, right? How many of us so many times have made a promise, I'll never do this again. And not just about our lives, drugs, alcohol, but I will never say this word again, I will never smoke again, whatever it is. All these different things and promises we make ourselves, and we fail at them miserably. Except you. So Reish Lakish, right, is the worst of humanity when the story starts. He's a con, he's a thief, he's a highwayman, he's strong, he's bully. There's very few redeeming factors to this guy, to be entirely honest, as it starts. So that's who Reish Lakish was. And I'll get back to the change and sort of what it represents and sort of our story at the end, but
Okay, so who needs
more texts. Great.
I think over here. Do you need a text?
Yeah. Thank you for coming, by the way.
Hi, folks.
Sophia, thank you. Thank you for coming, for staying. It's more needed. So I guess just to sort of, as they say in Hebrew, lesaver et ha'ozen, to make things clear, what you're seeing, the text in front of you, is a translation of the Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud, Gemara, same thing. A composition of wisdom, knowledge, and law that the Jewish people has held on for 2,500 years. This is what rabbinical Judaism is based on. There is no rabbinical Judaism. There is no this. There is no Reform. There's no conservative. There's no modern Judaism without rabbinical Judaism. We have a temple. Everybody worships at the temple. Temple gets destroyed. Our focal point as Jews gets destroyed, and they have to decide, who are we as Jews? So all the talks, all the conversations, all the stories, all the things that they say to themselves is recorded in this magnificent collection known as the Talmud and the Gemara, and it becomes the basis.
It's about about 1,000 years, 600 years.
Yeah, but it's collected for about 600 years before it's canonized. And what's interesting is it's of course unaware of its own writing. Sort of like, imagine if we discussing really important things and there's somebody in the corner writing something, all the things, writing the minutes, and all of a sudden, right, we die, of course, right? But the minutes remain. And now we have to try and figure out what those minutes mean, because they're in shorthand and then in a language that's been dead for quite some time. So that's why studying Talmud is very arduous and difficult, and you have to learn how to do it. And if you study Talmud 1 page a day, which is what's known as a daf yomi, 1 page a day, it takes you 7 and a bit years to go through all the Talmud. And that's called a siyum. And in about a year and a half, a year and a half, maybe 2, we have a big siyum coming up. They usually, if you'll see it now and then, it will be like, usually it's Dodger Stadium or Madison Square Park, and this huge, huge, huge celebration that we've finished studying the Talmud as a Jewish people, and we're going to start over again. So, and I've been doing this since I was 5 years old. Yeah.
Okay.
Shall we? So we're on the right-hand side, right? You see it says Roman number 1 and page number 1 in my own pagination on the left, right? The Hebrew or the Aramaic is there, and then there's a translation, and then the art scroll, which is trying to fill in the blanks, is part of what we're going to read. Yeah?
Right. So one of the things about reading Talmud, of course, is that the Gemara asks and then the Gemara answers. So it's the Gemara is this it's a compilation. What? Compilation, right. Sometimes words get stuck. Of a lot of different voices, so it's just the Gemara. All right? Just to give everybody who hasn't read it some idea. Hello, Shira. Why don't you sit down?
Women are not allowed to study.
Sit in front near Harriet. You don't need the text because you learned it by heart, right? So the Gemara turns to a discussion of beauty. Rabbi Yochanan said, I alone remain from the beautiful people of Jerusalem.
Which is now destroyed, right?
What?
Jerusalem is destroyed. That's where we are, right?
Yeah, right. So Rabbi Yochanan, according to the story, he's the guy that went out in the casket and told Titus that hailed him as emperor, and then word came that the emperor died and Titus had been made emperor, so he gave him Yavna. He gave him a section of Israel to be able to study. That's the academy at Yavne. Gemara discusses Rabbi Yochanan's beauty. He who wishes to witness the radiance of Rabbi Yochanan should do the following. He should bring a silver goblet fresh from the smithy and fill it with seeds of a red pomegranate and frame its rim with a crown of red roses and place it between the sun and the shade. That luster that reflects on the surrounding ground is a semblance of Reb Yochanan's radiance.
Pretty beautiful man.
Gorgeous. That's why he identifies with him.
Yeah, go on. No, right, it's curious, right? Sort of like, and I think that's one of the interesting things, and again, sort of, right, since we're immersing ourselves in the soul, one of the reasons why I both love Rabbi Yochanan and his story is that you would think the Talmud or any kind of mystical teaching or anything like that, right, is not really concerned with the outside shell of things, right? So like, who cares how he looks, right? He's a beautiful person inside. Yeah, that's nonsense, right? How you look, how you dress, how beautiful you are is incredibly important. And we can't ignore it, even with rabbis like Rabbi Yochanan. Right? The Gemara is not pretending.
Well, because you see, if you don't see somebody's beauty, physical and internal, then you're still not seeing the whole person.
Mm.
So really, for me, what the Talmud does with this story is it says, we're interested in the whole person. We're not going to hide from any part of the person. Which is an amazing thing, because you would think that a legal code, which is what the Talmud is, would be much more interested in just, here's the law, boom, 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 boom. But there's so many beautiful stories, and funny stories, and crazy stories in the Talmud. So here, it's starting out with this discussion of beauty, leading into the next piece.
Right.
Yet, it's an establishment, it gives us a foundation for what comes next.
Right. And it's pretty elaborate.
Yes.
Right. Which is, it's not like, oh, he was just cool and beautiful. No, let me take things for you. Right. This is before Instagram and selfies and duck face. Right.
So the Gemara questions, is this indeed so? But the master said, so who's the master they're talking about?
So the master is Amar Mar. Those say, people say, word on the street is that.
Okay. The radiance of Rav Kahana was a semblance of the radiance of Rabbi Abahu. The radiance of Rabbi Abahu was the semblance of the radiance of our forefather Jacob. The radiance of our forefather Jacob was a semblance of the radiance of Adam, the first man. However, Rabbi Yochanan's not enumerated here. So what's the, batteries? Right. So the word for radiance is what? The choufle.
Right, the goodness, but yeah, that's the one. Basically, the Gemara says, well, wait, we have a list. We have the Talmud's top sexiest man in history, right? Newsweek didn't invent it or whatever, right? Us Weekly. We have a list. At the top of the list is Adam, and then Jacob, and then, and then Rabbi Abahu, and then Rabbi Kahana. And I'm sorry, Rabbi Yochanan is just not on the list. How is that possible? If he's so beautiful, how is he not on the list? What is the shufrei? And what is I always think about also the word shofar. What is the projection? Beauty, aesthetics, make us stop in our tracks, just like the call of the shofar on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Right? When you see something beautiful, it stops you in your tracks.
Yeah, it's interesting because as you're saying it, beauty is what gets us to awe most of the time, for most people. stops us in our tracks, and we're like, struck. Right? Am I making sense? So this idea of something that shakes us up, something that wakes us up, I think, and I see what you mean by the connection to shofar.
Right. It penetrates you, right? When you see a beautiful piece of art, a beautiful piece of music, right? It penetrates you, right? Yesterday, right? There was at the services, right? And I said it to Nathan, but like that whole thing, and to David with the violin, and I was like, I had to take a beat. It just goes inside. That's what music does. What art does. That's what beauty does.
Right. Great music.
Right. Great sanctuaries, right? You go into one of the big churches, right? It's like makes you take a breath.
Right. We've gone into churches and temples all over the world, and in Europe, I mean, the Great Synagogue of Rome just takes your breath away.
Right.
Florence, it's like,
Right.
oh my God.
Right.
By the way, if you have questions or comments,
Raise your hands, yeah.
If we're doing this, you just,
Yeah, raise your hand. Absolutely.
we love to banter with everybody.
Yes, Jed. A poem? No. No. It really is just minutes of like multiple meetings that happened over 500-600 years of rabbis and important people. It's just shorthand of those. Look, you can make laws for things, but laws get lost. How you talk about things is the thing that you remember, right? In that sense, right, sort of the conversations is really about let's put things together and see what comes out. And that's really what the Talmud sort of like is trying to, it's really to try to understand what did I say, what did Jed say, what did Rabbi say, like, oh, why did he say this, why did he say that, that's the story, like all these different elements, trying to figure out basically what to do now. Yes?
I want to pick up on what you said about the idea that if you're holy or spiritual, you should not care about outside things.
Right.
Including
Mike, you want a mic? Oh.
Yeah, that it's vain or, shallow to care about how you look, how people look, how things look. And so I think that's a real both and.
Right. Right. And we share that, right? Sort of
Yes,
like, right?
we
Sort
do.
of,
Yes.
right? It's important. And I think I would say this is not the point of what, but like we neglect that in Judaism in many ways. I think we're finding it more and more. But in general, right, the meek, the lapidated, the, kind of like, nebusha, like, right? Sort of like, I can't tell you how many times, how many conversations really start with like, but you wear brands, but you have tattoos, but you like how you look, but you're fashionable. Like, how is that possible? Like, right? People just, it's like something happens in their head. Like, what do you mean you can, choose and help style somebody, right? Which I used to do, right? And also be a Talmudist. Like, no. You got to choose.
Right. See, the thing is, when you look back in history, the temple was ornate.
Very.
Synagogues were ornate. They had beautiful mosaics. They had such great artwork. What happened was it became a response to Christianity.
Right.
So much of what came through the Talmud and through the Dark Ages, Middle Ages, was Judaism's anti-Christianity response.
Yeah. No, the Pope wears dresses.
Yes.
Oh, what would you say about beauty in action or sentiment? Is that in the same category?
Say again?
Beauty in action or sentiment. Is that the same kind of awe-inspiring beauty?
What do you mean?
You mean to be inspired by beauty that is a sentiment?
Yeah, well, we're talking about like beauty in art or music.
I would say that the reason this is the tool of learning. That is, we understand the awe that we feel, right, can come from an act of kindness, right? But the way we, as humans, the way we experience the world is visually. The first moments of, right, the sunset, the sun, whatever it is, those are the thing. And then we build this structure. This makes me feel like this. For a lot of us here, that structure is fucked up. I mean, it's broken. That's why we're here, right? We're not here for, the facials and the amazing, massages. But like, right? But that is, and that's what they're important.
Right, and don't forget, hearing is a basic sense. So, of course, music, poetry, art, all these things, anything that comes into our senses is I think, falls in this category, yes.
And in fact, right, that's the Havdalah, which we chose, it's almost like we know what we're doing. The Havdalah, right, we're going to have a sense, it involves a sense of smell, a sense of taste, a sense of light, a sense of touch, and, right, the ornate Judaic, I mean, we'll talk about this later, this is my grandfather's, but, right, the trying to also have the sense of sound in it to try and create this sort of almost, right, sort of all senses when we move into these transitions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We need the microphone.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Oh.
Microphone? Oh.
Did you
I'm sorry, Mike. I said.
Something that kind of drew my attention here. I was reading this book the other day, and a couple of the characters are talking about like lofty things, and they come to this conclusion that we live in a world of semblances. And I'm seeing
World
that
of what?
Semblances. Semblances.
Semblance.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, I kind of have been thinking about what that meant, and now I see this, and it seems kind of like a bit of synchronicity, and I'm kind of like wondering, how do you interpret that? Like, is a semblance of something somehow less than the original?
Always. Mm-hmm. But it's, yes, so, right, this is an old philosophy, right, utopic philosophy, Aristotle, right, there's the, right, there is a perfect chair somewhere in the sky, right, and all chairs derive from that. There's a perfect strawberry, right, so like that we always try, and our experience always tries to mimic that, this ideal, right, but a semblance is also our interpretation of it, right, because there really is, the word utopic means it's not reachable. So if there is a perfect chair, if there is a perfect strawberry or a perfect whatever, it's not supposed to be attained, right? It's always supposed to be something that we try and find, because what happens when you find a semblance? You have to put it through your own eyes. You have to find your own beauty. And then the onus is on you to make the meaning.
Right, and the Aramaic is me'ayin, shufrei.
Right, from where?
Well, from where, and also me'ayin with the ayin is actually from the eyes.
Right, from the sight, yeah.
From the sight. So the semblance is from the sight.
Yeah.
Yes.
Andrea.
I also think it's interesting that we talk about the reflection, that if you want to witness the beauty of him, then it ends up sort of paying off in the end of the paragraph that you need to reflect on that you need to have the reflection. Mm-hmm. So I think there's something in that you're not talking about his real beauty, you're talking about the reflection.
I have a reflection, but I think sort of a...
That it's
yeah.
not direct. It's not the thing itself. It's a reflection of the beauty.
Yeah, absolutely. That there is a semblance of it. Again, I think.
And also, is it possible that perhaps he's so beautiful that he doesn't even have to be on a list?
Well, we'll get to that. They're asked that. We'll get to that. Why is it? No. But yes and no. I mean, the Gemara will say, we're trying to answer why is he not on the list. I guess we should go back to.
That's why I've always said I'm so great I don't need to be on the 50 best rabbis.
They stopped that. They don't do that anymore. It's a fascinating. If you actually Google that top forward. Hello. I don't know. Forward. Stop the list because It's really not flying to rabbis, but they kept getting like people would come and lobby and beg and want to be on the list and send people of, hey, Shira, would you go forward to say like, I'm the best rabbi? They would try and bribe them. It was really, people just were like not great about not being on the list.
Are you kidding? Any rabbi who wasn't on the list was pissed.
Pissed, exactly. And it was like, so Forward was like, this is appealing to the least of the denominational of these rabbis. We don't want to have that relationship, so we're stopping the list right here, right now.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's very funny.
Yeah. All right, so let's continue, right?
All right,
So why is he now on the list?
the Gemara answers.
Right?
Rabbi Yochanan is different than all these others because he lacked the distinction of the countenance, i.e., he didn't have a beard.
Sissy. He was different. He did not have a beard. That's right. The longer the board, right?
The Yiddish phrase, the longer the board, the grosser the ganav. The longer the beard, the bigger the thief.
In the South, is that the bigger the hair, the closer to God. Right? And in the fashion world, it was like the bigger the purse, the smaller the ass.
I love it. You can't make this shit up.
It's not mine. I didn't invent this, but I heard this, and of course, it's both. It's funny because it's true, I guess, right?
See, but there's this, as we go on, okay. So I want to keep going because there's this.
Wait, but let's that he is different, and this is very important. That here Rabbi Yochanan is described, and this is why he's down on the list. He is different. He does not have a beard. He's very pretty. Right? And here, in that sense, if I had to make that distinction, he's not handsome. He doesn't have countenance. He's pretty. He's a pretty boy.
Yeah.
Right? And that's going to be very important for us because he is different. And again, one of the reasons why I somewhat identify with this guy.
Right. So, Gemara continues to discuss Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan was accustomed to sit next to the entrance to the women's mikveh. He explained, when the Jewish women emerge from their required immersion, let them encounter me on the way out and retain an image of me in their mind so that they will have children as beautiful as I and as learned of the Torah as I. The rabbi said to him.
He was very modest.
Yes, he was a modest motherfucker. Is master not fearful of an evil eye? Rabbi Yochanan replied to them, I come from the seed of Joseph, over whom an evil eye has no power, as it is written. A charming son is Joseph, a charming son to the eye. And Rabbi Abahu said, do not pronounce the words alei ayin, but rather ole ayin, rising over the eye. Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina said that the scriptural source was from here, and may they, the children of Joseph, proliferate abundantly like fish within the land. Just as it is true that a fish in the sea, that water covers them, and thus the eye has no power over them, so too is it true regarding the progeny of Joseph. The evil eye has no power against them. Now this is an amazing thing. First of all, he's a pretty egotistical bastard. But even this piece, okay, look what the rabbis do. The Gemara does something that is so interesting, saying the evil eye has no power over the progeny of Joseph. The tribes of Manasseh and Ephraim were the leaders of the split when it became the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judea. It was Judah and Benjamin, and all the other tribes went to the north. All of those tribes are called the 10 lost tribes of Israel because they were conquered by the Assyrians, and they were assimilated into Assyrian culture, and you never heard of them again. So, my teacher, how can they use this, which is a blatant falsehood?
Well, Joseph is, in that sense, Rabbi Yochanan's counterpart. That is, that Joseph represents...
Yeah, Joseph was a pretty boy, too.
He was a pretty boy, too, that's right. He gets a Technicolor coat, right, which was only given to women, right? There's some queer scholars that think that maybe Joseph was born a girl and he was raised as a boy. I think that's pretty silly, but it's one of the things that's out there. He was also, right? Yeah. He was very pretty. He was very insightful and arrogant, right? And gets thrown into much like Rabbi Yochanan. And one of the interesting things about Joseph, by the way, is that he's considered by the rabbis to be, he's known as Joseph HaTzadik, Joseph the righteous man, Joseph the Tzaddik. The reason is pretty interesting. Joseph, if you take everything Joseph says, Joseph talks about God, refers to God, mentions God, prays to God, more than all the other patriarchs put together. More than Abraham, more than Isaac, and more than Jacob. He says the word God more than all of them put together.
Right, but he never says Adonai.
But, and I would say more than that, he's the only one who God never speaks to directly.
Right.
So he grows up in this household. God spoke with dad, God spoke with granddad, God spoke with great-granddad, but God will not speak to me. But he continues to go back to God, and therefore they give him the title of the righteous. He too, right, lives in this otherness, like Rabbi Yochanan. And they give him that, and they focus on Joseph for that, for this otherness, this pretty boy, this weird guy who, in fact, yes, and in fact, till today, if you are a Sephardic Jew, right, mostly in your home or whatever, you'll have an amulet or something that says, right, Ben Porat Yosef Ale Ain, right, and that breaks the evil eye. And that's really, really important.
Okay.
Water, and we'll see how water plays in. Water is important because it breaks all evil eye, all bad things. That notion of water, which is a Jewish notion that water breaks out all bad things and all evil and all magic, permeates all the way to modern culture, right? I'm melting.
Right.
Yes, Jeff.
I was going to say, would that be, would he be like the first example of faith because his father and grandfather, great-grandfather had the direct connect, so to speak, they actually, yet he kept going, but it was an obvious example of faith in action.
Yes. And he's a very interesting and very important character in general in the Bible, right? He makes them, when Moses leaves Egypt hundreds of years later, the one thing he carries with him, other than the stuff they borrowed, was Joseph's the bones of Joseph, to be buried in the land of Israel, right? So he's a very important character. And he has all this faith. Although again, I don't know if it's, and I don't know if that matters, if it's faith, oh God, or if it's just fucking talk to me already. What is wrong with me? Why can you talk to everybody else? And in fact, right, God then speaks to Moses later, but to him, just God refuses. Or maybe he doesn't hear it. I don't know. That's a different question.
Again, I think that part of it is with Joseph, because Yud Hey Vav Hey is never written in the story of Joseph. That Joseph's got this faith, but it's a faith of a very, very, very distant faith.
What?
It's not like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, where the faith is Yud Hey Vav Hey is personal. He's not on a first-name basis.
What?
And I would say that God didn't speak to him because he didn't speak to any of Jacob's children.
Right.
So.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Okay.
So we get to the crux of the story now.
All right. The Gemara records the story of the relationship between Reb Yochanan and Reish Lakish. The narrative begins before Reish Lakish's rise to eminence. One day, Rabbi Yochanan was swimming in the Jordan River. Reish Lakish, who was then a highwayman, saw him and jumped into the Jordan after him.
Wait, so let's stop there, Professor, right? So, so here's so Rabbi Yochanan, beautiful Rabbi Yochanan, long-haired, perhaps, I don't know. I see this sort of long-haired guy, really beautiful, swimming in the Jordan River. We're back in the water, right? Rish Lakish, right? Not known for his scruples or anything like that, right? So see this,
He's called a highwayman.
right?
So highwayman is, I think, a euphemism
Yes,
for a gangster.
right.
So Reish Lakish, head of the gangsters.
Oh yeah, he's head of the gangsters. He's a thief. He's a drug lord. He's not a good guy
Well,
yet. Or I don't know. We'll get to that, I guess.
it depends on what side of the
That's right.
fence you're
Depends what you see. That's right. But he is the bad guy, right? He starts the story as the bad guy, and he sees this beautiful creatures in the Jordan River, and he jumps into the river to be next to Rabbi Yochanan, right? To probably just ask him like, "Hey, how's it going?" Right? No. Are you lost? That's a question,
Well,
right?
that's a good question.
That's a good question. We'll see in a minute, right? Does he know? So what does he say? He sees Rabbi Yochanan. He jumps in. Rabbi Yochanan turns around, and Rish Lakish says,
Your strength belongs to the
No. Oh, right. Yeah, Rabbi Yochanan says to him, yes, that's right.
Rabbi Yochanan beheld this display of vitality and said to him, Your strength belongs to the Torah. Rabbi Reish Lakish said to him, Your beauty belongs to a woman.
Right? So he turns around and be like, "Ooh, wow. Hi, Rish Lakish. How's it going?" Like, "Oh, nice jump. You know, that's nice. Thanks." Right? Like, right? You should study Torah with me. Let's go. Let's be chavrutas. Right? And Rish Lakish is like, by strength to Torah, your beauty belongs to women.
Right. So Reish Lakish may be pissed off. Because he might have thought he was jumping in after a woman.
Or not. I don't know.
What?
Or not. I don't know.
Or not. I'm just saying
Right.
maybe.
Right?
Okay? I mean, this is an erotic
Encounter.
experience.
Yeah.
We all see that, right? No, I mean, the text is erotic.
Well, he's not, I mean, he's in the river. He's not jumping to steal anything from him, right? Because the guy is naked in the river.
You know, he's jumping in to know him in
Right.
biblical sense.
Right.
Thinking it's a woman, maybe.
Right. So Rabbi Yochanan says to him, right?
If you will repent your ways, I will give you my sister in marriage who is more beautiful than I. Reish Lakish accepted this upon himself. Reish Lakish.
Wait, so he accepts.
Right.
So Rish Lakish, right, whether because of his sister who is in fact more beautiful, unknown, or for any other reason, Rabbi Yochanan sees something in Rish Lakish. Whatever the encounter is, right, which we'll see in a second, whatever the encounter is, at this particular moment, he says, okay, will you use your strength for Torah?
Well, actually, he's saying that your strength belongs someplace else.
Right.
Which is, you know, this is an interesting piece here. It's really, it's what recovery is all about. And as Harriet says, you don't have to be an addict to be in recovery. In recovery, we place our strength and our power in its proper place. So Rabbi Yochanan here is saying, look, yeah, I know that you're, you know, a thief. I know you're the head of the, you know, you're the OG and everything, but that's not really where you belong. Your strength belongs in the Torah. It belongs in the teaching. It belongs in doing good and leading people to goodness, not to being a gangster. And that's this piece of, you know, you've heard me say this a million times. I'm still a hustler. My hustle is for God instead of for me. I still manipulate, but I manipulate for your sake instead of for mine. So we all have this power, this strength. What are we going to use it for?
Right.
Are we going to use it to stay stuck as victims and as poor me and lies we tell ourselves and stuck in old stories and all that stuff? We're going to use it to be free. I mean, it's kind of that simple of a choice. This is what I'm hearing.
Right.
When I read this, by the way, just, okay, I never studied this before. This is all just fresh me in it. But think about this. And Reish Lakish accepts this upon himself.
He is seduced.
He's seduced by beauty and by hearing something.
True.
That's true. That's true. That's why we all hear from different people in different ways.
Right. And I would say, and again, this is in a deeper level, that I think the reason Rabbi Yochanan can see Reish Lakish is because he also, even though great privilege and great beauty, he sees the otherness, right? He sees the thing. I know it's sort of like, sometimes it's a boohoo. I have a friend who's an actress. She's one of the most beautiful women in the world. And she complains, right, sort of like among friends, like, I have to speak twice as loud to be heard. I have to say things 3 times as hard to be seen because everything everybody sees is a beautiful blonde actress, right? And I'm not taken seriously. No, so yes, boohoo, but I think that in that sense, he gets to see the otherness and gets to see what to do.
I think that's an important piece here because, you see, we just think if somebody's beautiful or somebody's got celebrity or fame or wealth or something, they've got it easy.
Right.
That's not real.
Right. It becomes sometimes harder.
All of us have this piece. So it is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
So it goes on to say, Reish Lakish then wanted to retrieve his clothes, but wasn't able to muster the strength to do so.
I think that's a very key piece to the interaction. The jump that he did first, he can't do again.
Right.
So if you want to go to the erotic thing, he's spent. The things he will do to get to the girl or the boy are not the things that he gets after, right? The things we invest to get to the chase are not always the thing that maintains the relationship. Yes?
It seems like there's a transformational element. He's going into the Jordan, and also because he's taken his clothes off. So he's taken his clothes off, so he's leaving behind a part of what he is.
Correct.
And it's being washed away, and there's this reference to the mikvah a few stanzas earlier.
Correct. That's right. I mean, that's the other thing, and that's it. Sort of that you can also then see this, which is true. Once he is transformed, once you had your moment in prison, you cannot go back.
Right. Right.
You cannot do the same things. It becomes almost impossible.
Right. Well, that's that 49:51, and of course,
That's right.
Jordan. Is the fact that it's water again is important because really he made this decision and then this was his mikveh.
Yeah.
This was his mikveh of conversion,
Absolutely.
if you will. And once you're in the mikveh and once you convert, you're different. And
Right.
the strengths that you had are different. They're not automatically the same. In fact, they can't be the same.
Right.
So Rabbi Yochanan afterwards taught him scripture and Mishnah and made him into a great man. So, one of the things that's important here is that the highwayman, okay, the thief, the whatever you want to call him, he could transform into a great rabbi.
Mm-hmm.
Learned person.
One of the best, in fact.
Takes 2 things. his acceptance, and a great teacher. So in Pirkei Avot it says, Aseh lecha rab, find for yourself, make for yourself a teacher. We have to make people our teachers. That's what we do here at Beit Tshuva. We give you counselors, we give you therapists, we give you spiritual counselors so that we can help you make for yourself a teacher. That's been Iggy's role here. Not just this past year, but for a while, to help each spiritual counselor grow, to make them worthy of being a teacher, including me. And you have to also accept it. Then the second line of that is Kinei lecha chaver, that you have to have a spiritual friend to wrestle the text out with. You know, when we had our rabbinic showdown, we showed you how to argue.
That was fun.
And the third is give each person the benefit of the doubt. So think about this. When you meet somebody, when you're talking to somebody, what do I learn from this person? How is this person my teacher? Who am I going to talk with? How is my spouse my partner, my significant other, my whomever? How are they my partners in learning? How do I share my learning with them? And how do both of us give all of the negative things, all of the ways that we have of blowing somebody off, give them the benefit of the doubt. Yes, got it.
Isn't the scenario just as significant where they're both lost in the water, putting them on the level playing field essentially, where their vulnerability enables them to kind of have that exchange? So it's almost like, as I was listening to this, I pictured me just kind of taking off, so to speak, the outside world and who I want to present myself as, and being transparent in this place of healing and being, recipient of whatever wisdom that I can gain from here in that reality, and letting go of that misfit past.
Absolutely, and it has to be, and I think you're right. They're in the water, they're naked, and they've just shown each other both their best selves and their worst selves. Right? They know the interaction. And that interaction changes them both profoundly. And from that moment on, again, right, you cannot put those clothes back on. You cannot jump back. You cannot change, right? Rabbi Yochanan finally found his chavruta, right, his person, right? And Rish Lakish actually then, right, sort of, not to be too, right, but, right, turn his liabilities into his assets, right? And that can only happen when you are in the proverbial water, right, clean and honest and naked and raw, right? When you show the worst self, and like a lot of clients here, right? And I've said to some people, right, show me your worst. I will not love you any less. Right? Like we talked about on Thursday. Show me your worst. We've seen it. I'm not afraid. Because if you are open enough to actually show me who you are, then we can actually walk this path together. But it has to be without the fear.
And it's got to be not just because you're living in rehab. It's got to be for parents. It's got to be for children. It's got to be for business people. It's got to be for every person. The Talmud was not written for addicts. Right. I mean, I want everybody to understand this. When I quote Rabbi Heschel, he did not write a book or books for addicts. The Torah was not written because there was addiction at the time of Adam. They weren't slamming dope then.
If it's
So-
true once, it's always true.
Exactly. So part of this is for all the normal people, all you fools who think you are normal, let's put it that way. This applies to you. What's the place that you're still hiding from? And who's going to be the teacher, the
Right.
person that you're going to be able to be totally real with? That's why it's a Selach Rab.
Right.
Because your Rab never cares about the darkest, the worst, etc.
Right. And the potentiality here, right? So that sort of the worst highwayman can become the chavruta of the most important rabbi.
And most beautiful one.
And most beautiful one, yes. And that is, right, this unlikely match, right, is really striking. Even, and again, this is 2,500 years old. Right? This was written, right, at the beginning of our civilization. And
Right.
even then they knew that.
And this story, of course, is 2,000 years old.
Right.
Because this is right after the destruction of the
Right.
first temple.
Right.
Second.
Second temple.
Second temple.
Yeah, first century.
Yes.
Just in a basic way, also, like when you say every week, get rid of the schmaltz of the week.
Right. The schmutz.
Schmutz.
Yeah. Keep the schmaltz. Take the
Yeah, I'm a European Jew, so I got to keep the schmaltz.
So that kind of makes me think when it takes the clothes off, get rid of the old,
Right.
you can transform yourself. And when he has no clothes, he's exposed, which reminds me of your authenticity theme that is so much a part of recovery and Beit Teshuvah. So, you know, in a very simplistic way, throwing away the old and being exposed and being honest.
Right, and then choosing the new. And I wanted to thank. So it's not just like it's not just about getting. It's choosing the new, right? Yes.
And wanting to, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But cannot, in certain cases, can't the teacher maybe learn something from the student too?
Always.
Oh,
That's why it's chavruta. That's why it's a chavruta, like from the word from chaver, from friend. It's always a sort of like one-on-one interaction, right? As Harriet says, right, the soul to soul, rather than role to soul, or even role to role, right? It's when you get to see each other, right? But you can't see each other unless you show yourself, right? If you pretend, it doesn't work. And if you look from high, it doesn't work. If you look from low, it doesn't work. It has to be a one-on-one. And then learning happens for both of you, no matter what happens, right? And in that sense, I think, again, here, right, the spiritual counselor, the therapist, the counselor, the other people around, the reason why, right, we have a treatment team, the reason is because we want, right, to expose you to as many people as possible that you can both teach and learn at the same time and find the value that you matter as a person.
right.
Yeah.
So
How rare it is for a person to have an awakening or an epiphany moment and maintain it.
Right.
That most of us relapse.
Right.
Over the course of time, we don't maintain that commitment. What in this situation allowed the one moment to change both of them forever without the struggle that the rest of us seem to have?
Well, they will struggle. I mean, they do struggle in a bit, but at the end, again, this is somewhat of a semi-tragic story at the end, but at the end, the struggle becomes the thing, right? So that's why it's chavruta, but it's also bar plugta, like we were talking about with the rabbinical showdown, right? That it has to be a struggle, right? Nobody lives in exaltation. There's no room called happy. There's no room called connected, right? You
right,
can't.
There's moments of that.
Right.
So many years ago, I mean, Matt, right?
Yeah.
So Matt, in response to what you said, I just want to throw this out. Many years ago, I started 25 years ago, it's 26 years now, that I started studying with Rabbi Ed Feinstein. on a weekly basis. So what got Ed was he knew all the text. And then I told him how to live it on the street. And so for him, people would say, what are you doing with that guy? He said, what are you talking about? He's my teacher. So of course there's that thing. And I think that, thank you. It's not just, by being a bar plukta, as well as chavruta, the struggle never gets to the place that it gets to here. Because there's a deep respect, a deep kavod that each gives. So, I mean, this is the thing, when you have this experience, when you have this relationship, I mean, Iggy and I disagree on so many things. When we look at a piece of text, we see it so differently. And we can hug and kiss each other and be with each other because we know what it is to struggle with each other and to know that both of us are struggling for the sake of learning and growing.
It's brutal, just like for people who've never seen it. It's not. Oh. People want to clear the room. It makes people uncomfortable sometimes when we argue.
Rabbi Matt Shapiro was just I would walk in the room and he would just cringe. He would get so. You remember Deborah? How nervous Matt would get? He would just, because you never know where it's going to go when we start going. We don't know where it's going. Yes.
Thank you. A lot of what you're talking about making for yourself a teacher, and you're talking about the transparency of show me your worst and show me your best, just being totally vulnerable and being exposed to somebody, and the importance of being able to relate to your teacher and relating to each other. And I was just thinking of how important that whole concept is in recovery, about that the whole 12-step process emphasizes not only the honesty and all that, but it also emphasizes carrying the message, making yourself available to carry the message, and being willing to do that, being willing either to sponsor or to mentorship or something. The big book even mentions the fact that no matter how far down the scale we have gone, we can see how our experience can benefit others.
Right.
So that, I mean, that whole concept of taking what our own experience has been, whether, being a highwayman,
right,
or whatever our experience has been, and being able to then in turn relate that with another person, and being able to identify and be open and vulnerable with another person, right, is such an important part of the whole recovery process.
It's an essential part. Like, right? Don't get it twisted. I mean, right. The 12th step is not altruism. It's not 11th step and then the 12th step. You got something, bring back. No, being a sponsor, right, is part of the actual 12 steps, because then finding it, right, is not just carrying the message, is like, what are you learning with the other person and what they're learning from you, exactly, right? We've lost mentorship in this world, unfortunately, right? Sort of like, right, and my grandfather's, right, sort of like, you used to have mentors, right? Mentors for work, like it used to be this really important thing. And we've lost a lot of that, right? We've lost a lot of our ability to connect to rabbis and mentors, and I think part of what we're trying to do here.
Apprenticeship.
But like...
So an apprenticeship was a form of mentorship.
Right.
In fact, it was mentorship. You didn't become a rabbi because you went to a seminary. You became a rabbi because you studied and you learned with teachers, and when you were ready, they conferred it on you. My grandfather, of blessed memory, was apprenticed out. His mother died, and his father married another woman, and she didn't like the kid, and so get rid of him. You know, she had her own. And so what happened was he was apprenticed out at age 10, and he learned it. So when he came to America, he had a profession.
Schmattes.
Right. So, you know, I mean, that's the way it used to be before there were colleges and trade schools and everything else. And we've lost that through, we've lost the beauty of that through education. We think education is the end-all, be-all. And education is really important, in learning how to use what you learn is even more important. Which is why to become a therapist, you have to get hours.
Right.
You have to be in the field.
And here, right, that we tell all of us, all people, like, find somebody to work with, right? Find mentors. Be a mentor, right? It's not, the apprenticeship is all about the ability to both teach and learn at the same time.
Right, and that's why we have the work therapy.
Right.
And the externship, so that you all can learn. Okay.
Should we go on with the story? Finish the story?
Let's do this.
Do you want me to do this part?
The narrative continues. One day, many years later, they were disputing the following point in the study hall. The Mishnah states the sword and the knife and the hunting spear and the military spear and the hand sickle and the harvesting sickle. From what point are they capable of becoming tameh?
So for those who don't, right, sort of all things in the universe have one of two states. They either are tahor, pure, or tameh, impure. Every single thing is either pure or impure. It's very binary, unfortunately, right? There's very few in between. But if it's tahor, if it's pure, it's good. You can touch it. You can use it, right? If it's tameh, you cannot. If it's impure, you cannot use it. And here the question is, right? At what point something becomes tameh? The reason why this is, and you'll see this, I guess what you need to know, is that if I'm making something, let's say I'm making a knife, right? The question is, at what point is it finished and then it's capable of becoming either tameh or tahor, right? If I'm making some piece of pottery, until it's done, it's neither, right? And only when it's done can it then become either pure or impure. Right, so they're asking, at what point can one of these things, the sharp objects, can they become? When are they done? When are they finished by their making?
Right. So the tameh piece is not so important. What it is when are they complete?
Correct. Well, hold on.
It is from the time of the completion of their production. And when is the completion of their production? Rabbi Yochanan says from when the metal utensils are tempered in a furnace. Reish Lakish says from when they are polished with water. Rabbi Yochanan said...
Oh, wait. Right? So Rabbi Yochanan says from when you take it out of the furnace. Reish Lakish says no, when you put the knife or whatever in the water, right? The whole right? When they're in the water. Right, and I right, we're friends of like water, Reish Lakish, okay, right? So, just what do you mean fire? Yeah, but like the question is when they're done. Is it when it's hot?
Is it done when it's hot, or when?
Oh, you mean with the other with Rabbi Yochanan?
When it's tempered
Yes.
in the water. So Reish Lakish is saying in the water.
Yeah, I'm just pointing out like they each have one of these classical elements, right?
Yeah. No, you're correct. You are correct. Right. Rabbi Yochanan is the goblet from the smithy.
Yes, sir.
I think they're done when they take on their purpose.
But that's the question. When is that? Is it when? Well, can you cut with a smoldering knife? Yes. So Rabbi Yochanan says that's the done. And Rabbi Lakish says no, only when you temper it in the water, then you could cut as well, and that's when it's done. Right? So that's their answer. Now, go on. So
Rabbi Yochanan said to Reish Lakish, a thief knows the tools of his thievery.
So now, right, Reish Lakish is right. Reish Lakish is correct. It is only able to get tumah, it is finished when it's in the water. Rabbi Yochanan doesn't like that. He doesn't like to be wrong. And he does something that is one of the worst things and something we're not allowed to do in Judaism. Bring up his past and says to Rish Lakish, oh, yeah, you're right. A thief knows the tool of his thievery. Of course you know when knives, right? He shtups him, right? Of course you know when knives are ready to be used. How many knives have you used, Rish Lakish? I don't know in knives. I'm this beautiful rabbi. You know knives. That's why you got one over me. This is not a good look for Rabbi Yochanan.
Right, so he became now holier than thou.
Yes.
Reish Lakish replied to him, and how have you benefited me? There, among the thieves, they called me rabbi. I was the leader. And here they call me rabbi. Rabbi Yochanan said to him, I benefited you in that I brought you under the wings of the divine presence.
Right, so Rish Lakish is like, oh, whoa, Rabbi Yochanan. You think you've done all this? You know, you think I needed you? I was rabbi there, and I'm rabbi here. I knew things then, and I knew things here. Right? Rish Lakish is trying to remind Rabbi Yochanan that this is a partnership. Rabbi Yochanan doesn't see it. He says, well, I brought you under divine presence. Yeah, whoop-de-doo.
Right. Rabbi Yochanan became disheartened because of Reish Lakish's response. Reish Lakish became seriously ill. I want to stop there for a minute. The kind of rebuke that Rabbi Yochanan gave to Reish Lakish, because he was his friend, his brother-in-law, his teacher, his chavruta, at that moment of reminding him of his past, that broke Reish Lakish's spirit, and he became ill.
Very ill, in fact.
Seriously ill.
Yeah.
Now this happens again in the Talmud with Reb Eliezer, who argued with the majority and was excommunicated. And because of him, Rabban Gamliel died.
Yeah.
So there's this sense of what happens when friends really turn on each other. Not just disagree, but really go for the jugular.
Right.
And how terrible that is. And all of us can remember some time when we turned on a friend. Be it in grade school, a woman came to me, she couldn't figure out why things weren't working. And we were talking, and she remembered that she had been really disloyal to a group of people that she had been friends with for years because she wanted to go be with the popular girls when she was like 13, 14. And in seeing that happen to her, she called them up and made amends. And then everything else became clearer. So all of us do this, we don't even notice it.
Right. It also reminds me, and this is, that even with the greatest of men's and greatest of friendships, right? I always think about this when sort of people do find recovery and then they go back home, right? And they still de-identify patient, and how hard it is, even for these great, to see the change. The moment of break, right? Sort of they remind, and that how terrible that is, and how much we must fight to see the other person's change no matter what.
Right. Well, listen, I mean, that happens. That's happened to me. I've had that
Right.
experience where people will say, oh, you know, that's just a con.
Right.
I've been doing it for 30 years. And there's a sense of, why don't they believe me? I've had people say, I'm not a real rabbi. Colleagues actually said it.
Yeah.
And I know that pain. I know the pain of racial accusation. Difference for me is I'm so stubborn I won't let them get me seriously ill. Fuck them.
Yeah. All right. So he becomes really, really, really ill.
So Rabbi Yochanan's sister, who was Reish Lakish's wife, came before Rabbi Yochanan. She cried and pleaded with him to pray for Reish Lakish's recovery. She said to him, "Act for the sake of my children, prevent their fathers from dying." Rabbi Yochanan replied to her with this verse, "Leave your orphans, I will sustain them." She said, "Act for the sake of my impending widowhood," he said to her, "and let your widows trust in me." Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish passed away. But Rabbi Yochanan grieved after him considerably. The rabbi said, "Who shall go to bring comfort to his mind?" Rabbi Elazar ben Padas should go, for his scholarship is brilliant. So Rabbi Elazar went and sat before him. To everything Rabbi Yochanan would say, Rabbi Elazar told him, "We learned in a brisa that supports you." Rabbi Yochanan eventually said to him, "You're supposed to be like Bar Lakisha." With Bar Lakisha, whenever I would say something, he would pose 24 difficulties to me, and I would give him 24 solutions. And as a result of the give and take, the subject became clear. However, you constantly say, "We learn in a brisa that supports you." Do not I already know that I have said well? Rabbi Yochanan would go about and tear his clothes and would cry and say, "Where are you, Bar Lakisha? Where are you, Bar Lakisha?" And he would scream until his sanity wore away from him. The rabbis prayed for mercy on him, and Rabbi Yochanan passed away.
Yeah. No, it's right. Unfortunately, right? I can't remember this thing, right? Don't we always? I can't remember the story. Like we always appreciate something when it's gone, but right at Rish Lakish, right? Rish Lakish.
Philip, can you turn down the air conditioner? Harry, it's freezing. Plus, it's a little bit chilly on my neck.
Yeah. The Rish Lakish, right? So like Rish Lakish becomes so ill. His right? Rabbi Rish Lakish's wife, right? Rabbi Yochanan's sister is like, "Come on, for me," and he still won't do it. And how stubborn we are until it's too late.
Right, and then, the one who cries the loudest at the funeral is usually the most guilty.
Right. But then Rabbi Rish Lakish sort of like, when Rabbi Elazar ben Padat, who's like, they said, "Oh, all he wants is to see." Again, they still don't see the real Rabbi Yochanan.
They never understood the real Reish Lakish.
That's right.
And they couldn't understand the relationship.
Right.
I can't tell you, it's so powerful because look what happens. 24 difficulties, and then it would become clear. Who do you need to help you get clarity about things?
Right.
Who have you chosen?
Right. It's like spiritual counseling, right? Quite frankly, the spiritual counselor is like, "Oh yeah, you're right, you're great." Blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm sorry, they're not doing their job. If they're not challenging you, right? If they're not challenging you, if your mentors are not challenging you, if your friends are not challenging you, if your friends are not putting a mirror to your face, they hate you because they want you to remain the same.
Well, I don't know that I would say they hate you. I understand. I don't disagree. I just don't want to be so...
brazen.
No, I don't want to hurt the spiritual counselor's feelings. Because, I care so much about feelings.
That's my job.
It's very difficult because it's easy. It would have been easy for Reish Lakish just to go along with the wise Rabbi Yochanan.
But then he would not be Rabbi Yochanan.
Right. And Reish Lakish wouldn't be who he is.
That's right.
Because we need that. We need the constant. When I'm giving somebody something and they keep coming back and coming back. I mean, that's what Iggy and I do. We go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. People go crazy because we're just trying to get clearer on it. Most people want to stay in the fog. They don't want to invest that much into their own lives and into their own learning.
They're conflict averse.
So Harriet and I start arguing about something. I mean, back in the day, we would sit in her office or in my office, and we would go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and people were like, they didn't know if they should agree with me, agree with Harriet. They didn't even know what we were doing, and by the end of...
Oh, they're stupid. Harriet, every day of the week, and twice on Sunday.
Well, they always did. I was trying to give myself a break. But what came from it is all the growth that this program has experienced. So if you have a friend here and they don't challenge you, they're not your friend. If you have a spouse or a significant other, whatever, that doesn't challenge you, then they're not the right one for you. Anybody that lets you hide, okay? Reish Lakish would not let Yochanan hide, nor would Rabbi Yochanan let Reish Lakish hide.
That's right.
Except at the end. And then he was so sorry about it.
But we get to learn, and that's why the story remains in Talmud.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Jeff, you had a question?
Well, no, it wasn't a question. I just wanted to make a comment. This referred to as far as spiritual counseling. In my time here at Big Shuva, two people who have pissed me off literally the most, where I couldn't see straight, were you two up there. Funny thing is, both of you were my spiritual counselors. And the things that I got most upset about were the areas where I was in my blind spot, and the biggest growth...
Denial is a better way of putting it.
Whatever, Rabbi.
He's being kind to himself.
Yeah, so, and the places where I have gotten the most growth have come from those moments where you guys held up that mirror, whether I liked it or not. You stood firm, and you saw in me what I didn't see in myself.
Right.
So it's, point well taken. Thank God that I, got to a point where I was willing to listen to you and then ultimately see what you saw.
But I want to point out, by the way, that sort of as much as I thank you for the compliment, right? So like that it's not this unique thing, this sort of, Rabbi and I have, whatever. That there are levels of this that should happen on every interactions you have with your friends, with your spouse, with your sponsor, with your roommate, whatever it is. It's sort of that is our responsibility as individuals, right? Not to be argumentative, right? It's not about sort of thing, but like to not, as you said yesterday, on Thursday, to not stand idly by. To not put a stumbling block in front of the blind, as you said, blind spot. To show them the truth, to show them the light, to take them to the water, right? The only way to do this, by the way, is being naked oneself, right? The only way to do this is be honest, right? It's not, the role to soul. I'm the rabbi, I want to tell you. But like to be honest with you and the vulnerability. I care. This is what I want to do with you. This is where we want the life to be. We're building a community. We're all part of this community, right? It's not just like I'm going to fix you and then I'm going to go away. It's not a commodity. Yeah. Right. Right.
Right.
And to say it is the vulnerability too, and that's sort of that, right? To say it is vulnerable, right? When Rabbi says to me, right, and there's when it says like, hey, Iggy, this is, you should have done this or should have done that, right? That's a vulnerability. Because what I need to hear is, oh, you care about my rebellion and growth. What I can hear sometimes is like, what the fuck do you know? You don't know this, right? Like, but this, but that, but you don't understand, right? And we've all said this, right? Him doing it, right, is the vulnerability. Is like, I care and I'm affected by what you're doing.
Right, and it goes back to the beginning of the story. The beautiful one, and then the thief sees the beauty and sees the strength in the beauty and the wisdom in the beauty. So it's a matter of being able to say, I need to be vulnerable. I need to be vulnerable enough to have you mad at me. Because truth and learning and presenting the difficulties are more important than... What?
Nothing. I didn't realize it was full. I didn't realize there was something in it. I'm sorry.
It didn't get on your shoes, though.
No.
Okay,
God,
good.
no.
Good.
Just a black carpet.
I want to tell you something, okay? The one thing I am jealous, because I love shoes, I got some pretty cool kicks. They don't compare. They don't compare. I am absolutely... How many do you have?
Well, Harriet knows because she asked me on Tuesday. Oh, no, whatever, yeah. 300. I know, it's crazy.
300 pairs.
But you want to know...
I want you to know something. I'm even more envious now.
But I don't know if like most people like... so like most fat girls, right? Sort of like there is the side of my closet that is right the skinny side, and there's the fat side, and there's the thing between and everything. But so right, so that's always frustrating, right? Because shoes always fit you,
Right.
right? So and that's an accessory. So you just invest in what in what fits you well.
I love it. I love it. You can't make this up, right? So for me, this is so important because distance doesn't change this. Doesn't change the relationship. It doesn't have to. Let's put it this way.
That's right.
Okay. Especially with all the things, all the ways of connecting now. So, Iggy, I want to say on behalf of all of us, but certainly, mostly on behalf of myself, that you going to New York is only a few thousand miles difference. It's not any kind of separation. And, as we've talked about, I'm going to come and help in whatever way I can. And but you are going with all of our hope. You are the hope, my own personal hope, and in the hope of what we do here, because you're continuing it and growing it. And you go with our strength. You go with our love. And most of all, you go with our belief. We believe in you, and we believe you. And you belong to us, and we belong to you. That's what Ed Feinstein told me a long time ago. Mitzvah is a claim. And you have a claim on us, and we have a claim on you. And there is no one that could do this, could start the Juba Center and bring everything that you bring and bring all that we are and all that we have, both in programmatic, administrative, stupid shit, but most of all, in the spirit, than you. And as I said before, I'm going to miss you terribly. Terribly.
Me too.
And I'm so excited. So very, very excited. Harry, you want to say something to him too?
I want to say, but this is not right. This is not good, but I would say, I learned from Gil Spielberg, right? Ooh. I learned from Gil Spielberg, right? Sort of that. I wanted to say thank you, but thank you is a way to sort of cut the conversation because we feel too awkward about our feelings. So I want to say not thank you, but it makes me feel seen, and it makes me feel heard. It makes me confident, and it makes me feel like what I am going through and what we're doing together is worthwhile. So your words are giving me that. And the Tshuva Center is a tribute to you and Harriet and everything I learned here. Without your guidance and building this and constant learning on my part, I won't. It's funny. There was a while ago. Was a while ago. There was a moment, and we were doing something. I can't remember what it was, but it was in the office, and I thought, okay, I've seen all of Rabbi Mark's tricks. Like I know the thing, right? And I came with it with sort of some hubris. Okay, with doing something. I think we were interviewing somebody. I can't remember what it was. And then and at the end you took it and you sort of flipped it all around. And I remember thinking like, shit. And it was a personal moment of humility and a personal moment of learning, and how I could spend 1,000 years with you guys and still not learn everything I need. And I really, truly feel that. And in that sense, sort of like, I'm not just, like I said yesterday, afraid of the leaving, but like all the things I'm going to miss in my learning. So yes, so it's not a goodbye, it's a see you later, and let's take the message forward.
Okay, so
thank you.
As with everything Jewish, we're going to do Havdalah, but before, since the sun isn't going down yet, how about if we have the third meal? So we have a lot of food over there. It's from Almanza. It's all Mediterranean. You should enjoy it. Guests, please eat first. That's what we do here. And Sophia, you can open it up.
And then we'll call you in probably like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, and we'll do Havdalah together once the food is consumed.
All right, if everybody could come over on this side again, we're going to do Havdalah. Daniel. Daniel R. Would you bring me, Daniel, bring over one of those bowls or a cup, please. Okay, if everybody come over. Okay. Explain Havdalah.
Right. I guess since there's less people, just come here. Let's do this closer. Come. I don't know where everybody else is.
Stand up here?
Yes.
Yeah, stand. Come here. Let's all stand. Let's make a semi-circular movement.
Aaron, could I ask you to come up?
So, for those who do not know what Havdalah is, so Havdalah literally means to separate, lehavdil, from one thing to another. And Havdalah is a very, very, very old tradition. It is thousands of years old, in fact. And it is another Jewish piece of wisdom that sort of precedes something we know in modernity and in modern therapy, which is that the most difficult moments are moments of transition. That moments between different parts are the moments that we falter, the moments we learn something about ourselves, and those are difficult. So we have rituals to help us constantly. And Havdalah is one of those, where we separate between the holy Shabbat, the holy Sabbath, and the week, the rest of the less holy week. And it is a very important tradition because without it, we can just like fall into the week and not stop and say to ourselves, this is a moment of holiness. This is a moment we choose to go back to our week. This is sacred to us. This is special to us. And we do Havdalah, and so we're going to use this set, just like this. We're going to use my grandfather's set, who's, so that little thing, which is a little besamim, the spices, the aromatics. You'll see it has little holes in it in the middle. And when we're going to pass them, people will smell them. There's cloves in them. And of course, like I said, there's the little things, and it's old traditional besamim. So if you've ever seen old ones, sort of this is turn of the century, actually, old. And then his Kiddush cup here. And then we have a Havdalah candle, which is different than a regular candle by the fact that for Havdalah, we can't just have one wick. We have to have multiple wicks because we're never just ourselves. We're always in community. And in moments of transition, we have to acknowledge the community. So these things between the touch, the taste, the sight, the smell, the sound, that's what we're using all of it to say, this is a moment we separate one thing from another.
And we have it up.
Yeah.
Noah, you can
No.
hit the next.
Oh. Yeah, there you go. And we have the lovely musical accompaniment. Thank you so much. We can turn the lights off.
Somebody hit the lights.
Yeah. Here, Grace is gonna hit the light. La 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen lai 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei vesamim. Pass it on. Borei minei vesamim. Lai 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei meorei ha'esh borei meorei ha'esh lai 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 Amavdil ben kodesh memase. Lai 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 la 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 la. Amavdu ben kodesh lechol hachotenu incho zarchenu v'chaspenu yorpekacho v'chochavim balayla. Shavua tov, 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 Shavua tov. A good week, a week of peace. May happiness and joy increase. A good week, a week of peace. May happiness and joy increase. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Atishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimhera ve'ameno, Yavo aleinu, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben David, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi. Shkoyech, well done. Thank you. For those of you there, we've blessed over the wine, hagafen, we've blessed over the fire, we've blessed over the psamim, the spices, and we've blessed over having a good week, separating the holy from the rest of the week. And then for you who wanted the tradition, it's very, very old school, but now this wine is blessed with all our intention of separation. So if you're an altar cocker like us, you take a drop and you put it 2 drops on your eyes to see better, and you put 2 drops in your pockets to have more parnasa, to have more money. So if you believe in those traditions, feel free to dip your finger in it and ask for parnasa and for good sight. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you. Have a good week. Thank you.